Have you ever had your cholesterol checked and been told it's a little high, even though you feel completely fine? Or maybe you eat fairly well, you try to be careful, but something still doesn't feel quite right. This is where it becomes important, because artery changes don't usually happen suddenly. They happen quietly, in the background, over years, and most people don't realize this. Some of the foods you eat every day may either support your arteries or slowly work against them. Not in an obvious way, not in a way you can feel right away, but over time, it adds up. Now here's the part that surprises many people. There may be one simple meal, a combination of everyday foods, that can actually help support your blood vessels, and chances are, you already have most of it at home. But here's what almost no one explains clearly. It's not just about avoiding certain foods. It's about how specific foods work together inside your body. And one particular combination seems to influence your arteries in a way many people overlook. We'll break that down step by step. Before we go further, keep this in mind. Your arteries don't clog all at once. They respond to patterns. What you eat once doesn't matter nearly as much as what you eat regularly. So even a small daily meal, if it supports your body, can begin to shift things in the right direction. This is why simple, consistent choices often matter more than strict diets. Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Miller. I've spent years working with older adults who were doing their best to stay healthy, but still felt confused by their numbers. And what I've seen again and again is this: small, practical changes, especially in daily meals, can make a meaningful difference over time. Not instantly, but steadily. If you find this kind of clear, practical guidance helpful, consider subscribing. My goal is to help you understand your health in a way that actually feels usable in daily life. In this video, we're going to look at what may really be happening inside your arteries, even when you feel fine. You'll see why some common eating habits don't work as well as people expect, and more importantly, you'll learn about a simple, research-backed meal pattern that may help support better blood flow over time, without making your life complicated. By the end of this, you'll have a clear, realistic way to start supporting your arteries, starting with your very next meal. Let's start with the basics. Your arteries are like flexible pipes that carry blood from your heart to the rest of your body. But unlike regular pipes, they're alive. They respond to what you do every day. When they're healthy, they stay soft and open. They can gently expand and contract as blood moves through them. Blood flows smoothly, without resistance. But over time, fatty deposits can begin to build up inside the inner walls. This is called plaque. Now, this doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow process. Think of it like rust forming inside a pipe over many years. At first, everything still works. Water still flows. Nothing seems wrong. This might sound familiar. Have you ever felt completely fine, but then a test showed your cholesterol was higher than expected? That's how this often begins. Because early on, you usually don't feel anything. No pain, no clear warning. But as plaque continues to build, the space inside the artery gets narrower, less room for blood to pass through, and the flow becomes less smooth. This is where it becomes important, because your body depends on steady blood flow to deliver oxygen and nutrients. When that flow is reduced, even slightly, your heart has to work harder. And over time, that strain can add up. Now here's another layer many people don't realize. Plaque isn't just sitting there quietly. In some cases, it can become unstable. And this is the part most people miss. It's not just how much plaque is there, but how active it is. That's one reason why two people with similar test results can have very different outcomes. Now let's bring aging into the picture. As we get older, our blood vessels naturally become a bit stiffer. They lose some of their flexibility. Think of a new rubber hose, compared to one that's been used for years. The older one doesn't bend as easily. Your arteries behave in a similar way, and when they're less flexible, they don't respond as well to changes in blood flow. That makes them more sensitive to daily habits, especially what you eat and how you live. So even small choices, repeated over time, can either support your arteries or quietly make things harder for them. So here's one simple shift you can start today. Instead of focusing on cutting everything out, focus on adding one supportive meal each day. We'll break that meal down shortly. There's a well-known eating pattern called the Mediterranean-style diet. You may have heard of it before, but many people aren't quite sure what makes it different. It's been studied for many years, by organizations like the National Institutes of Health and the American Heart Association. And across different studies, the results tend to point in the same direction. People who follow this style of eating often have better heart and artery health over time. Now, this doesn't mean it's perfect, and it's not about strict rules. This might sound familiar. Have you ever tried a diet that focused on removing everything you enjoy, and it just didn't last? That's one reason this approach stands out, because it focuses more on adding supportive foods rather than cutting everything out. Think of it less like a diet, and more like a pattern of eating. Meals built around simple, whole foods that your body recognizes and uses well. And this is where it becomes important. The benefit doesn't come from one single food. There's no magic ingredient doing all the work. It comes from how foods work together inside your body, day after day. For example, healthy fats, fiber, and plant-based nutrients often appear in the same meal. And when they do, they seem to support your blood vessels more effectively than when eaten alone. And this is the part most people miss. It's the combination, the pattern, the consistency over time that appears to make the biggest difference. Not what you eat once, but what you repeat regularly. Let's start with something many people don't think about: inflammation. You don't feel it directly. There's no clear signal most of the time, but it can quietly affect your arteries day after day. In simple terms, inflammation is your body's response to stress. A little bit is normal. It helps you heal. But when it stays slightly elevated over time, it can begin to irritate the inner lining of your blood vessels. Think of it like a small, constant irritation inside the walls of your arteries. Not enough to notice, but enough to create wear and tear over the years. This might sound familiar. Have you ever had normal energy, no major symptoms, but your lab results showed something was off? For example, a 68-year-old man I once spoke with felt fine overall. He stayed active, no major complaints, but his blood tests showed rising inflammation markers. He assumed it was just part of aging, but when we looked closer, his meals were heavy in processed foods and low in natural, whole ingredients. After making a few simple changes, adding olive oil, vegetables, and nuts, those markers gradually improved. This is where it becomes important, because inflammation doesn't just sit there. It can make the inner surface of your arteries more sensitive and more likely to attract plaque buildup. And this is the part most people miss. It's not only about cholesterol, it's also about the environment inside your arteries. If that environment is inflamed, plaque is more likely to form and stick. But when inflammation is lower, your arteries are calmer, more stable, and better protected. Certain foods, like olive oil, vegetables, and nuts, contain natural compounds that help quiet this process. They don't work overnight, but over time, they help create a healthier environment inside your blood vessels. And that's why small, consistent food choices can have a bigger impact than they seem. Now let's talk about cholesterol. You've probably heard the terms good and bad cholesterol, but those labels can be a bit misleading, because here's the part many people miss. It's not just about how much cholesterol you have. It's about how it behaves inside your body. In simple terms, cholesterol is a waxy substance that travels through your blood. It doesn't move on its own. It's carried by particles. Some of those particles are more likely to leave cholesterol behind in your artery walls. Others help carry it away. Think of it like traffic. If everything is flowing smoothly, there's no problem. But if things start to slow down or pile up, that's when buildup can begin. This might sound familiar. Have you ever tried to eat less fat, thinking that would fix your cholesterol, but your numbers didn't improve much? For example, a 72-year-old woman noticed her cholesterol numbers were borderline. She wasn't eating much fat, so she felt she was doing the right thing. But when we looked closer, her meals were very low in fiber and lacked healthy fats. After adding simple foods like beans, leafy greens, and olive oil, her numbers gradually began to shift in a better direction. This is where it becomes important, because your body doesn't just need less cholesterol, it needs better balance. Fiber plays a key role here. It acts almost like a sponge in your system, helping remove excess cholesterol before it can circulate too long. And healthy fats, like those found in olive oil and nuts, help your body manage cholesterol more effectively. They support the cleanup process, and this is the part most people miss. Cutting out fat completely can sometimes make things worse, not better, because without the right balance, your system doesn't function as smoothly. When fiber and healthy fats work together, they help keep things moving. Less buildup, more stability, and over time, that supports smoother blood flow through your arteries. This is a big one. Your arteries need to stay flexible to handle changes in blood flow. They're not meant to be rigid tubes. They're designed to gently expand and then return to normal. That flexibility helps your body adjust when you stand up, when you walk, or even when your heart beats a little faster. But over time, that flexibility can decrease. Arteries can become more stiff, less responsive, and when that happens, blood doesn't move as easily. The heart has to push a bit harder. This might sound familiar. Have you ever noticed feeling slightly more pressure or a tighter sensation, even during normal activity? Sometimes, that's related to how flexible your blood vessels are. Think of it like this. A soft, flexible hose lets water flow smoothly, but a stiff hose doesn't adjust as well. The flow becomes less efficient. This is where it becomes important, because certain foods, especially leafy greens, contain natural compounds called nitrates. Now, that might sound technical, but here's what it means in simple terms. These compounds help your body produce a substance that tells your blood vessels to relax. And this is the part most people miss. It's not just about preventing blockage. It's also about helping your arteries stay open and responsive. When your blood vessels can relax, they widen slightly. So instead of being tight or stiff, they stay more open, which makes it easier for blood to move through. Over time, this can reduce strain on your heart and support better circulation overall. And again, this doesn't happen overnight, but small, consistent choices, like regularly including leafy greens, can help maintain that flexibility as you age. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt fine on the outside, but your numbers told a different story? This is more common than people think. Now let's bring everything together. When people ask about the #1 meal for artery health, they're usually looking for one specific food, something simple, something quick. But this is where it becomes important. It's not a single food that makes the difference. It's a combination, because your body doesn't respond to nutrients in isolation. It responds to how they work together. Think of it like a team. One player alone can help, but when the whole team works together, the results are much stronger. This might sound familiar. Have you ever tried adding just one healthy food, but didn't notice much change? That's often why. Because the real benefit comes from how foods interact inside your body. Here's a simple version of that meal. A plate of leafy greens, like spinach or kale. A source of healthy fat, like olive oil. A portion of beans or lentils, some nuts or seeds. Optional, a piece of fatty fish, like salmon. Now let's break that down in a simple way. The leafy greens help your blood vessels relax. The healthy fats support balance and reduce irritation. The beans and lentils provide fiber to help manage cholesterol. And the nuts and seeds add supportive fats and nutrients. Each one has a role. But here's the key idea. When you eat them together, they support your body in multiple ways at once. And this is the part most people miss. It's not about having a perfect meal once in a while. It's about creating a pattern your body can rely on. For example, if this kind of meal shows up a few times a week, your arteries are being supported again and again. Over time, that consistency matters more than any single food ever could. So instead of asking, "What's the one thing I should eat?" a better question is, "What simple meal can I repeat regularly that supports my body?" And this combination is a strong place to start. For example, spinach helps your blood vessels relax. Olive oil supports a calmer, balanced internal environment. Lentils provide fiber to help manage cholesterol. Walnuts offer heart-friendly fats your body can use. Salmon provides omega-3s that support smooth circulation. Now, let's make this easier to picture. You don't need a complicated recipe. This could be something as simple as a bowl of greens with olive oil, a side of lentils, a few walnuts on top, and maybe salmon a couple of times a week. This might sound familiar. Have you ever looked at a healthy meal plan and thought, "This is too much to keep up with"? That's exactly what we want to avoid here. Because this is where it becomes important. The goal is not perfection. It's not about getting every meal exactly right. It's about building a pattern that feels realistic for your daily life. Each of these foods supports your body in a slightly different way, but you don't have to include all of them at once. Even adding one or two consistently can begin to make a difference. And this is the part most people miss. It's not the occasional perfect meal that helps your arteries most. It's the simple meals you repeat without stress or effort. For example, a handful of walnuts most days, or switching to olive oil regularly, or adding greens to your lunch. These small steps add up over time. So instead of trying to change everything at once, focus on what feels doable this week, then build from there. Because consistency, even at a small level, is what truly supports long-term heart health. Now, it's important to be realistic. This is not a quick fix. There's no single meal, no single week that suddenly clears your arteries. That's not how the body works. Think of it like this. If something has been building slowly over many years, it also improves slowly, step by step. This might sound familiar. Have you ever started something healthy, like walking more or eating better, and then stopped because you didn't see results right away? That's very common. But this is where it becomes important. Your body is always responding, even when you don't see it yet. Inside your arteries, small changes are happening. Less irritation, better balance, smoother blood flow. At first, you won't feel it, but over time, it builds. Weeks turn into months, and months into years. And those small, repeated choices begin to shift things in a meaningful way. And this is the part most people miss. It's not about dramatic changes. It's about direction. Are your daily habits supporting your arteries or working against them? Even a small improvement, repeated daily, can move you in a better direction. For example, choosing olive oil more often, adding greens a few times a week, including fiber regularly. These don't feel like big changes, but over time, they add up. So instead of asking, how fast will this work? A better question is, can I keep doing this week after week? Because that consistency is what allows your body to gradually improve and adapt. And that's where real progress happens. This is where it becomes important. Many routine checkups are just snapshots. A single blood test, a single reading, taken on one specific day. And that information is useful, but it doesn't always tell the full story. Because your arteries don't change overnight. They reflect patterns, built over years. Think of it like taking one photo of a long journey. That photo shows where you are, but not how you got there. This might sound familiar. Have you ever had a normal test result and felt reassured, but deep down wondered, is everything really fine? That's a very common experience. And this is the part most people miss. Early changes inside the arteries can develop quietly, before they show up clearly on standard tests. Not because anything is wrong with the test itself, but because it captures a moment, not the full progression. For example, your cholesterol might still be within a borderline range, even while small changes are already happening in your blood vessels. So it's possible to feel fine, and even have acceptable numbers, while the underlying process is slowly developing. This is where daily habits become important, because your body is responding every single day, not just on the day of your checkup. What you eat regularly, how you move, how you sleep, these shape your arteries over time. And while a test gives you a snapshot, your daily routine is what shapes the bigger picture. So instead of relying only on numbers, it helps to think about patterns, because that's what your body is really responding to. Of course, if you have a medical condition or take medications, it's important to move carefully. Always check with your doctor before making major dietary changes, especially if you're managing heart disease, diabetes, or taking medications that affect blood pressure or cholesterol. Because even healthy foods can interact with your treatment plan. For example, some foods can slightly affect how certain medications work, so it's always better to make changes with guidance. This might sound simple, but it can make a real difference. Now, let me say something important. If you're feeling unsure about your numbers, or wondering if you've done something wrong, you're not alone. This is very common. Many people reach a point where they feel confused by their results, even when they've been trying to do the right things. And this is the part most people need to hear. These changes often come with age. They don't mean you failed. They simply mean your body needs a different kind of support now. And the good news is, your body can still respond. Even small, consistent habits can begin to shift things in a better direction. This is where it becomes important, because it's not about being perfect. It's not about changing everything overnight. Here's what I want you to remember. It's not one perfect meal that makes the difference. It's what you do, again and again. Think of it like a routine your body learns to trust. One simple plate, repeated regularly, can support your arteries more than a strict plan you can't maintain. And over time, those small choices begin to add up, quietly, steadily, in a way that supports your long-term health. So let me ask you this. Which part of this meal feels realistic for you to start with this week? Is it adding greens, switching to olive oil, including more fiber? Start with one step, keep it simple, and build from there.